Alright, so for this one, I'm just gonna show how to texture this rock that I sculpted. I pretty much just used the same technique from my last video. This isn't really like a series type of thing, but I just decided why not also do a video on how to texture this. And then like obviously you could just bake it down after, but I'm actually gonna texture the high poly first. So let me just open up a separate tab. Push the shader editor. So I first kind of want to just add like a rock image to this. So let me switch to material preview right now. And I'm just gonna give this like a cube projection. So you just hit U and then C after selecting all the faces. And now I'm just gonna drag in this image. You want to like use maybe like a smoother rock texture like this, because that way like all the details you're sculpting in won't get faded out. So I actually don't like the coloring, so I'll desaturate this. I'm gonna add a hue saturation value node. Just take the saturation down, maybe all the way. Yeah. Could even maybe drop down the value, make it a bit darker in some spots. That looks nice. And I'll also bring in the normals and add a normal map node, and I'll plug this into here. Remember to set the color space to non-color. Plug that in there. Nice. And what we need now is the roughness. I think I brought in the wrong normal map. Double check. We actually want the normal GL. Oops. Let me just plug that in. Non-color. The roughness now. Plug that in. Okay, awesome. So we pretty much have like a base now to work with. Just gonna move all these down here. Now, pretty much we're just gonna use like the actual geometry of this object to like add in some details. So first I'm gonna add a geometry node, and we'll take we're actually going to plug the pointiness with the base color. So I'm going to add a mix color. Drag the pointiness into the color B. And just set this to multiply. Now I actually want to like add a color ramp to add more contrast to this. So let's just, oh yeah, sorry. Let me just go to cycles, GPU compute. Just move the black and whites a bit. Yeah, like what it's doing is adding like a black color in all these cracks, you could say, in the rock. So like when we go back here, I'm actually gonna need a sunlight or just like a light source for now, so I could actually see what's going on. Set this to like 3. Increase the angle. Okay, so yeah, like as I was saying, like it's gonna pretty much just add like some darkness in these like crevices. So when you like go back to the actual principal BSDF, you'll see like all these details we sculpted are much more noticeable now. So what we could also do is adding ambient occlusion. I'm gonna duplicate this. I'll duplicate this color ramp as well. I'll put the AO into the color ramp and put that into B. So I just have to play around with this a bit. Maybe do that. See what this is looking like. Yeah, it just adds in some like nice ambient shadows to the rock itself. Now what we could do is add in some edge wear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this ambient occlusion node. And okay, I'm sorry if I'm going too fast, but like everything I'm explaining right now I've covered in previous videos on my channel. So like I'm just combining basically all that, like all the different texturing techniques I use, and I'm just using them on this rock. So if you want to like watch it in a slower paced format, you could watch those videos. But I'm just trying to show that like that exact method can pretty much apply on any type of like rocky surface. So now I'm just gonna give this a color ramp. Plug the AO into here. Duplicate this. Plug that into B. And we want to set this to inside. Decrease the distance. And we want to increase this to like a value of 5. And just add in some contrast. Play around with the sliders until you get something you like. Then to like add some randomness while adding noise texture, just to break up all these like brighter parts. Give this a mapping node, set this to object. Actually need another mix color node. Set this to add. Plug the factor into here. Now it's kind of broken it up, but I think this noise texture is too like big, so let's just increase the scale, increase the detail and the roughness a little bit. We'll add some contrast to the noise texture by using a color ramp. Push the blacks and whites a bit. I still think this is like too big, so what I'll do is I'll just decrease the distance a bit more. Something like that. Yeah. Now if we just go back here, got some like nice edge wear now on our rock. Also, this isn't like a completely realistic rock. Like I'm just doing this for like display purposes for the video, but like obviously if you wanted to make your own you could clean it up more, but like it would still take I'd say an hour max to make this, including the textures. So yeah, anyway, I'll add in some like color variation now. So I'm just gonna add another noise texture. Duplicate this. Give this a mapping node. Put the object. Put the vector into B. And a color ramp. So gonna push the blacks and whites a bit, kind of like that much. Add some detail and some roughness, maybe a bit more. What it's looking like. Now we can just adjust the color ramp until kind of happy with the look. Actually look at the color ramp itself and see how it's behaving. If I go back here, yeah, you can see those darker spots of the noise texture a lot better now. Just look around the whole model, make sure everything looks fine. Okay, this is all right. Okay. Now, like, what we could maybe do is add some, like, moss or dirt. Okay, so for the moss, what I want is to have it only appear on the bottom of the rock. So what I'm gonna do is I'll actually duplicate the principal BSDF, and I'll just add a moss image for now. Plug that into the base color. And then I'll just mix both of these shaders with a mix shader node. God. Okay. So now, like, what it's doing is it's just uniformly mixing everything. So what I want is a texture coordinate node. And then a separate XYZ node. What I'll do is I'll plug the object into the vector and then the Z into the vector. I'll add a color ramp. This is to invert the effect we're having, because right now it's only appearing on the top. So if we just invert these colors, now we're getting like more of the look that we want. But it's still too much moss here, so what I'm going to do is add a math node. And I'll just play around with this value. Something like this much. Oh. Yeah, like this much is fine, to be honest. But it's kind of just uniformly added now. So we could just break up the edges where it's meeting the rock. So what I'll do is I'll add a noise texture. Give it a mapping node. Set this to object. And what I'll do is add a mix color. Plug the factor into B. And I'll also add a color ramp to add more contrast. So what we want is like just as much breakup as possible. Actually, we want to set this to add, because we don't want it like mixing in at the bottom here. So I'll actually just play around with the actual noise texture now. I'll increase the detail and the roughness, and maybe like increase the scale a bit. Let's see what it looks like now. Yeah, I think this is fine. Now what we just need is the actual normal map. The roughness. also, if you want to change the color of the actual moss itself, you could do that with like a hue saturation value. You can change up the hue of it. Maybe something like that, like a warmer colored moss. Honestly, I think it's a bit too pixelated right now, so what I'll do is, I wonder if I select all these and then add a node. Oh, Control T. Okay, no, it's just a separate one. So what I'll do is I'll just add it to one of these and then I'll add it to the rest. Now we just increase the scale. Yeah, that much seems fine, to be honest. So yeah, this is pretty much it. We're done now. Have a look around the model. Yeah, I think this looks pretty decent now. Obviously, you could just play around with it and like do it to your liking, use your own textures and all that. Obviously, I feel like Substance Painter is a better option, but not everyone has access to it, so I thought it'd be better to just do a Blender tutorial for this. Also, if you have any questions, you just ask me in the comments. But yeah, anyway, this was my process for making a rock texture, and thank you for watching, and check out the other videos on my channel if you want to follow along with the process of how I do these textures, and I'll see you in the next one.